But first, to that pause on funding from Australian taxpayers to the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, often referred to as UNRWA. Now, the pause is a good one, bringing us into line with other Western nations, given legitimate concerns that UNRWA staff have credible links to the October 7 terror attacks. But these concerns aren't new. In fact, it's not just the Israelis that for years have been sounding the alarm about this organisation. Labor's ignored those concerns, but me and many others in the media and Jewish organisations have called out UNRWA. This was why I was so critical of that extra funding we saw from Penny Wong when she visited the Middle East just 2 weeks ago. Joining me now to discuss this, President of the Australian Jewish Association, David Adler. Well, I'm not wrong there, David, am I? I mean, you and I have both brought up the risks with UNRWA funding. Jewish organisations have done that for many years. And the Australian newspaper reports that back in December, Jewish groups and business leaders personally warned the Albanese government not to commit to extra funding, but they did. Indeed.
And you're right, Peter. We have been warning about it in published materials since 2018. I went to Israel, I visited some of the experts, gathered the evidence, came back to Australia, the questions in Senate estimates committees, and no person who is, can feign ignorance on this. There is overwhelming evidence of Hamas being integrated with UNRWA in all sorts of ways. UNRWA has been a huge problem, and it is shameful that the warnings, that the evidence has been ignored for so long.
Disturbingly, I read comments from the head of the UN, Antonio Guterres, even while this pause is on, even though we know the reason, these credible links with terrorism, that's the reason for the pause, he's already calling for the West to drop the pause, to reinstate the funding. So how long do you think it'll be before Labor and the Labor left force the Prime Minister to back down and put this money back into play?
Look, that's anyone's guess, frankly, but one thing for sure, the so-called pause should be permanent. UNRWA is toxic. It is in effect, and it needs to be called clearly, it is a terrorist's factory. While Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad are engaged in terrorism, in killing, they obviously lose a number of people. They need a constant flow of youth willing to join their terrorist ranks. I can tell you that in the education run by UNRWA, there is a teachers' management committee of 11 people. 11 of those are Hamas members. Hamas also controls the religious education in UNRWA schools. The textbooks are full of incitement. And frankly, there is no place for UNRWA in the Gaza going forwards if we want peace. The institution is so toxic to the core, it really needs to be disbanded and replaced by something else, perhaps the UN High Commission for Refugees, so that the people in Gaza are treated on an equal level as everyone else.
And look, I couldn't agree more. It needs an absolute total clean out, but it cannot be refunded. While I've got you, can you give me your take on this International Court of Justice decision? It came out on Friday. My take, it's a bit of a mixed bag. Okay, the court didn't go so far as to order a ceasefire, but it's really given a real punishment to Israel over this allegation of genocide. That did not get thrown out. What did you make of the interim ruling?
Look, it is a mixed bag, and the important thing is that the major asks were not accepted by the court. Israel was not ordered to cease its military campaign. There was no ceasefire order. But frankly, the case should have been thrown out. Let us not forget that despite its name, the International Court of Justice is an arm of the UN. Its judicial representatives largely come from countries which are not democratic, which don't have a rule of law as we understand it. And the Hamas, of course, has a genocidal charter. South Africa, which brought the case, arguably is now conducting genocide against the white South African farmers, while Israel is doing its utmost to minimise civilian deaths. The only party to the proceedings which is not motivated by genocide is actually Israel, the party that's been charged. It's perverse.
That's an eloquent reminder of the facts there, David Adler. Thank you for your time.